All right, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a very valuable and very limited seasonal only material, and I wanted to go over the important details of it, including the things that you're going to want to turn these in for versus the other side of the scale, the things you're going to want to avoid and not spend this currency on. Now, the reason why this is so important with this specific item is because it's very limited. You're not going to be able to just farm out a million of these like other resources like the time-filled Blackstones and the Tuvala ore. You can always end up killing mobs, doing Rift Echoes, and a lot of other stuff to get more time-filled stones, Tuvala ore, etc. So, you know, it's not like you ever feel like you really are going to run out of those. Whereas this one, you can only actually get a certain number of these, and once you get the ones that you can get, that's really it. You're going to have to work with those and pick carefully which stuff to turn it in for. So what I'm talking about, of course, is these season swell seashells. This can be a little tricky to say, so I'm just going to say seashells, and I think you guys will know what I'm talking about throughout this video. If you're wondering where to get these, there's a couple of different things. First of all, just by opening up your leveling aid boxes, playing your seasonal character, you get this box. I think the first one is level 10, and it's a box inside of a box thing where you're going to constantly get one with a higher level requirement to open, and every time you open one of these, it's going to give you a bunch of stuff, including a couple of these seashells, so that's going to be one source right there, and I believe this box goes all the way up to like level 61, 62, so you get some pretty darn good stuff from that as well. Now, the other source is going to be your season pass. There's a good chunk of these seashells scattered throughout, so definitely make sure that you guys are working on this. You know, a lot of the stuff early on is towards the start of your seasonal journey. You will still get credit later on if you guys do this stuff and you still have stuff to do earlier on, but you can't actually claim the later on rewards until you actually work through this in order. So definitely take advantages to not just get the seashells, but all the other really good stuff that you get from it. And there's a good chunk of these scattered throughout the free version and the paid version. They're not exclusive to one of them, so if you do get the paid version, you will get some more of these seashells, but if you do not get the paid version, there's still a good chunk of these seashells scattered throughout the free version as well. But that's basically it. Like, once you get the seashells from the leveling boxes, the season pass, you're gonna have a good chunk of these to work with, but you won't be able to get more, so that's why the decision of what to turn in is very important. And now I wanted to go over that, and I wanted to kind of go through the list here and talk about the really good stuff versus maybe the stuff that's not going to be as important, and then the stuff that's just straight up, go ahead and skip it and don't waste your shells on it. Now, before I get into a list like this, of course, with a subjective video, I always like to say at the end of the day, we're all playing a game to have fun. That's the most important goal. So if you guys end up, you know, either you've already turned in some of your shells and you're like, oh no, man, I turned in something that he said don't do. Don't worry about it. You know, last season I made a lot of mistakes and I did stuff with these that I regret, but at the end of the day, you know, hopefully you're having fun, and even if that means picking something that maybe I don't recommend on this list, if that's what's going to bring you enjoyment, that is the most important thing. But I'm all about efficiency, getting the most out of resources, so I definitely wanted to put a video like this out there, and let's get into these. Now, I wanted to focus on the bottom list there, the biggest chunk. This is super important, and I want to point out a major mistake that I actually ended up making last season that cost me big time. It is a little bit confusing until you actually go and talk to this NPC here, but when it says one quest per family, very important. What that means is that you can actually do every single one of those one time if you want to. It's not limited to one out of the entire category, which is what I actually thought last season. I thought that you could only pick one thing out of that entire list and that's it, and then you couldn't end up getting anything else. That is not how it works. You can actually do all of those in the list. You could do them all one time, but you could just only do them one time each. Really important, because a lot of the really good stuff is actually going to come out of that category there, and it's going to make you want to avoid the other two categories a bit more so, because you're going to get more value for your seashells from that one quest per family category. Now, in order to go and actually get these rewards, you're going to go to Igor Bartali here in Velia. He's got a list of quests, and if you go to the quest page, you'll see here all these seasonal quests. These are actually the quests to pick up, and quite simply, all you're going to do is then talk to him, turn in your seashells, and get the reward that you picked up the quest for. So pretty darn simple, and you can end up doing all of those one time total. Let's get into that list there. Let's talk about the potentially good ones versus the ones that maybe are not so good. And something that I'll do as well is for the items that it's really easy to tell, I'll point out the value of it, like how much silver are you getting per seashell. It's a little tricky to do for some stuff, but it might help you get a little bit of a better idea and understanding of, you know, is this a good pick versus how is that compared to that pick? If you kind of break down, like you're going to get this much silver in value per seashell, and it's really easy to do at the start of the list there with things like those Kaffir Stone bundles. So let's go over that first. Now, generally speaking, you guys will see as we get further along in this list, I don't think that these are going to be the best choices. The Kaffir Stone bundles, I'm not necessarily saying Kaffir Stones are bad or anything, but there's just so much other good stuff in this list. And these seashells are so limited, you're not going to get enough of them to really feel like this is something you're probably going to want to go for. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is up to you. Now, let's get that value because you're going to get 10 to 50 of them for 10 of your seashells. That's an average of 30 Kaffir Stones for 10 seashells, which means that each seashell is going to get you about 3 Kaffir Stones on average. So obviously, depending on the economy on your server and how much these are, you know, obviously, if you're watching this video a little later, maybe they're a bit different, but at about 2.5 million silver each, you're looking at about 7.5 million silver or so in value per seashell. So keep that in mind as we get a little further into the list here. The advice of Valks, the fail stack, you know, if you're using that number of like 7 to 8 million silver each, you're basically paying 150 million for a 50 stack, which is a bit of a steep price. Also, given that the seashells are so limited, again, we find ourselves in that situation where you're just going to feel like these seashells are too limited to be able to pick these fail stacks. Now, if you really need fail stacks, this is kind of an emergency option, I guess, but there's a lot of other ways to get fail stacks, right? We want to really lean more towards the things that we're not going to have a ton of different ways to get the rewards. If it's very limited to like the seashells and not a lot of other stuff, there's plenty of other ways to get fail stacks. They're giving them out in a decent amount in the season just by working on your Tuvala gear, getting it to try and talking to Fugar. There's a bunch of quests there that you can get for 40 and 60 stacks. So given that these are able to be acquired in so many different other ways and that there's so much other good stuff, in my opinion, it's going to be a pass. So next up, we have a better Kaffir Stone bundle, 50 to 100. That's an average of 75 for 20 seashells. So instead of getting like 3 Kaffir Stones per seashells, you're getting more like 3.5 to 4. So it's a little bit better. I guess if you were to pick a Kaffir Stone bundle, that one is a little bit better than the other one, but obviously it costs more seashells. So in my opinion, just there's going to be too much other stuff to go for. That includes that 60 fail stack too. You know, it's a little bit better. You're paying more seashells for it, but there's so many other ways to get those 60 stacks, including every piece of Tuvala gear that you get to Tet. If you talk to Fugar, he's going to give you a 60 fail stack, so that's going to help with that. Now, we get to the first thing that I think is not a terrible option. I think that the Secret Book of Old Moon and the Blessing of Kama Sylvia, the 20-day ones, I think they're both okay. Only if you can't really reliably get these for silver on the market. That's always going to be a better choice. So if you guys have your pre-order, keep in mind that these are currently at about 100 million silver on the market if you pre-order them for a 15-day blessing and a 15-day Book of Secret Moon. Now, the thing I say, though, is that, like, you don't know, I don't know exactly how often these get filled. I don't know if you've had an order for one of these going for a while, and the server that you're on is obviously going to be really important because, you know, on NA, everyone knows NA costumes are a lot easier to get than other servers. So if you can get one of these from the market with silver, that's going to be the priority for sure. But if you cannot and you need a blessing or a book, I don't think it's a terrible choice, given that these are, there's a lot less ways to get these than there are, you know, fail stacks or Kaffir Stones. These are more limited, harder to get, harder to come by, and the market is obviously still the #1 pick, but, you know, that's a backup choice right there. But still, once again, I feel like there's going to be other stuff here that you're probably going to want to use your seashells on. Let's get into that. So next up is the Wizard Gosfee. This is a special pet that you can actually use and feed it to another pet without any penalties or anything like that. So really nice if you need to get your pets to tier 4. These are a bit more difficult to come by. They will occasionally end up giving these out for free, but not too often. So if you are still working on getting your pets up to tier 3 and tier 4, and you do not have any other way to level up your pets, especially if it's like a limited pet, one where you can't end up easily getting more copies of it off of the market, then I think that's an acceptable option for sure. I don't think it's a bad one. But I think for a lot of players, there's probably still going to be other stuff on here that you might want to consider more. I do think that this one, though, is, you know, somewhere to the top or middle of the list. I don't think it's bad or a waste of your shells to pick up that Wizard Gosfee, though. So next up is going to be the tier 8 White Horse with instant acceleration. And honestly, if this had all of the Corsair skills, that'd be nice. It does have instant acceleration, but odds are that this tier 8 horse that you get is still going to need a lot of work to make it into a Corsair. So the value of that horse is probably just going to be, you know, a couple 100 million silver. A couple 100 million silver for 30 seashells is definitely not bad. You're looking at, you know, 10 million or so silver per seashell. But remember that this horse, If you're a horse trainer and this is something that you really need, go for it. But I think for a lot of other people, there's just going to be other stuff here. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it, but I do think that this is probably a better choice than like the Kaffir Stone bundles, for example. Now we get into the Manos riding crop. This is one where it's going to be really easy to actually tell the silver value of. So if you go to Manos riding crop, you can see that these are currently at about 250, 260 million server, at least on the NA server at the time of making this video. And for 30 of your seashells, you're looking at a little bit less than 10 million silver per seashell. So notice how we're getting that number for a decent amount of stuff. So that's a sign that it seems like those rewards are reasonably balanced. You know, some of them are obviously better than others, but still close to that 10 million silver, a little bit worse. The thing is, you can always buy one of these if you need a riding crop. The silver is always something you can go out. You can always farm more. You can always get more. These seashells are pretty limited, so I don't think it's a bad option later on if you've already gotten a lot of the stuff with seashells that you want to get and you have extras, but I don't think it's something that should be at the top of your priority list. Moving along to the next one, and I really, really do like this one, actually. This is one of the ones that I lean towards actually getting myself here. That's the Spectre's Energy. What Spectre's Energy is used for is it is used to create a Black Star equipment. The only Black Star that does not require Spectre's Energy is your main hand. And you'll notice that if you look, main hands are generally going to be a bit cheaper because Spectre's Energy are very rare, hard to come by. Now, if you already have a bunch of these lying around, if you don't really know what to do with them, don't vendor them. They are worth more than 30 million silver each. And if you actually go through the time and effort to go do the Black Star quest, you combine, or you take a Spectre Energy and you get one of those Remnants of the Rift and you go to somewhere above Calpheon. It'll actually say, if you click on one of these Remnants of the Rift, it'll take you to where the quest is. But basically, you need a Spectre's Energy. You need to do this little quest time. You're going to need a couple pieces of boss armor or weapons as well to melt 3 of those. And then you can end up making yourself a Black Star Awakening. You can make yourself a Black Star Armor as well. I would recommend the Awakening. Those are very hot right now. They're selling for a lot, and this is potentially a very profitable pick. I will tell you right now, somebody who does a lot of enhancing, this is a big pick for me, for my shells, and I could probably make at least 500 million to 1 billion silver just by creating a piece of Black Star Awakening and then either enhancing it or selling it to somebody else. So it's a good pick. It requires a little bit more effort, though. You have to go through some work and do the quest, but I lean more towards Spectre's Energy than like I do, you know, those Kaffir Stone bundles or something like that. So definitely a reasonable one. However, the next thing that we get to is probably the most important one on the list. I don't want to say it's a must get, but if I were to put a must get on any of the things on this list, this has got to be one of them here, and this is a really, really big one here. That's going to be your Seasonal Boss Exchange Coupon, and what that does is it's going to allow you to exchange one of your Pen Tuvala pieces for a Tet Boss Gear. This is a whole topic for a different video. I don't want to get too much into it right now because there's certain things you want to pick, certain things you don't want to pick for what gear you want to convert. I think it's still a little early. I don't think a ton of you guys probably have your Pen Tuvala gear yet, so you don't have to worry too much about that as of right now. But in the coming days, I'll make an entire video talking about that. That's going to be really, really useful, especially to those of you guys who are newer, so you can actually convert one of your Pen Tuvalas into some boss gear. So that's a big one. Pick this. It's at the top of the list, I'd say. Out of everything on here, it's at the very, very top. Now, the next 3 things are the Tuvala main, sub, and awakening exchange coupons. Unfortunately, they're not as good as the exchange coupons that we had last time. What these do is they allow you to exchange your Tuvala gear from one class to another. Now, I would say if you guys plan on playing the seasonal server a lot, I would lean on not really wanting to get these. And the reason why is because if you play the season a lot, you're going to end up with so much of the seasonal materials. You're going to be able to make multiple pieces of Pen Tuvala. It might seem daunting right now, but trust me, later on, you'll be able to get there. And you're not going to really need these coupons to convert because you'll have the resources to make the additional Tuvala anyway. Now, if you don't plan on playing the season a whole lot, if you really want to switch to a different class, and if you've already made your Tuvala weapons, your sub-weapons, or your awakenings, I don't think this is a bad pick here to save yourself some time and resources to convert it from one class to the other. It really is more one of those things that for some people, it's going to be a good option. For other people, it's not going to be, and it's going to depend on your playstyle and how much you go play the season. And then, of course, that very last one there on the list is the triple exchange coupon. You get all 3 of them there, but you save 5 seashells. So I guess if you're going to convert your entire set of gear, you might as well save 5 seashells on that. But overall, I do think that that boss gear exchange coupon is the best thing to pick. I think the Spectre's Energy is a good one. I think the Wizard Gauze Fee is totally fine as well. I think there's a lot of reasonable choices here. It's pretty well balanced, and I would generally lean away from the things like the Kaffir Stones and the Fail Stacks, as there's just so many other ways to get those that I wouldn't really prioritize it. Now, for the exchangeable at all times and the 3 quests per family, I would generally lean away from these. If you feel like you want to pick those, generally it's going to be better to go back to something in the 1 quest per family and pick one of the things that maybe I said is not going to be as good. So prioritize the things at the top of your list, like, maybe your boss gear exchange coupons, wizard gods fee, that sort of stuff. And before you go and get things like your Valk's Cry, your Cronstones, I'd go back and even pick things like the Blessings, the Old Moon, or even the Fail stack. So I think that's probably still better value than you're going to get for your exchangeable at all times category. Now, the 3 quests per family, I don't think that the inventory expansion coupons is a bad pick at all. You can end up getting 3 of those, so 6 inventory slots for 15 seashells. Given how inventory slots are limited, unless you actually, buy pearls and buy that from the cash shop, except for the ones that you end up getting just by playing your character and going throughout the inventory expansion quests. Once you get those, if you need more inventory space, I think this is a reasonable choice to get it. So actually one of the things outside of the 1 quest per family list that I do think is not a bad choice. So I might even recommend that over like the Kaffir Stone bundles and the 1 quest per family, especially if you need the inventory space. But anyway, I think I went over this list pretty well and exhaustively. I want to go ahead and leave it there for this video. I think this is an important one though, given how limited these are. You want to make sure to get the most value for these that you can. At the end of the day though, pick whatever you feel like is going to allow you to enjoy the game the most. That's the most important thing, but I thought I would offer my 2 cents and hopefully help some of you guys out. So with that being said, that's going to be it for the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing. Feel free to toss a quick like. Comment if you guys have any questions. It helps out the YouTube algorithm. All that sort of stuff means a whole bunch. So thank you to guys, those of you guys who do that. And more videos and fun stuff coming out soon. Feel free to check out the Twitch stream. I do lots of streaming and lots of enhancing. Twitch.tv/salt. And with that being said, take care, everyone. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the season. And I'll see you all very soon.